right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So, Rich Cimini of ESPN just dropped a huge, a pretty in-depth article hitting on a bunch of different positions, the center position, wide receiver, talked a little bit about Quincy Williams in the linebacker position, Jamal Pritchett as well. There was a little paragraph about him. But I want to focus in on the second point he made, which was a name to watch, talking about a potential wide receiver target here in Jakobi Meyers. Now, Cimini says one receiver who might be available is Jakobi Meyers, who reportedly wants the Raiders to trade him. Jets passing game coordinator Scott Turner, a Raiders assistant in the previous 2 seasons, spoke glowingly of Meyers last December. I tell people all the time he's one of my favorite players that I've ever coached. Meyers, 28 years old, is coming off his best season. 87 catches, over 1,000 receiving yards, and he's in the final year of his contract at a $10.5 million base salary and wants a raise. And rightfully so. I mean, Meyers is literally coming off, again, the best season of his entire career with shaky quarterback play. So, you know, if you put yourself in Meyers' shoes, of course you're going to want, an extension. You're not going to want a decrease in pay, obviously. And the Raiders, I guess, reportedly up to this point, have been a little reluctant to give Meyers that extension. No, of course, this can go any sort of way. We've heard teams say, "Oh, we're not really interested in paying," and then they shell out a contract. We saw what just happened with Hendrickson. We saw what TJ Watt just got. Who else? Terry McLaurin had that whole thing, trade request, and he ends up getting the deal. But Meyers is a little bit different because he's not one of those top-tier premier NFL stars like Watt, like Hendrickson, like Scary Terry here. Meyers is kind of that consistent, steady wide receiver too. All those years with New England, these past couple seasons with the Vegas Raiders, obviously reuniting with Josh McDaniels when he was the head coach over there. So let's ask the question, is there a realistic chance that Jakobi Meyers gets traded to the Jets? I think the answer is yes. I think the Jets would have some interest. By the way, Connor Hughes suggested a second-round pick in exchange for Jakobi Meyers, like compensation-wise. No, not doing that. Not doing that. First round pick, I'm not trading. Second round pick, not trading. Like, I love this upcoming draft class, and we already don't have a third round pick because of Hassan Reddick, Joe Douglas, that whole thing. So the most I would be willing to move for a wide receiver, and you'd really have to sell me on it, is a fourth rounder. But ideally, I want to keep that selection too. Fourth round picks are cool because that's like late 90s, early 100s. Like, you can still get a top. You can definitely get a contributor in round 4, but potentially a starter. I want to hang on to those round 4 selections. And look, we've seen what these wide receivers are going for. It's not that much. I can't see a situation where Alec Pierce gets moved for a second. I can't see a situation where Jakobi Meyers actually gets traded for a second. I mean, look at what George Pickens just went for. Jerry Jeudy a couple years ago. These moves for these guys in like contract seasons, guys that want new deals, new extensions, they don't get flipped for all like this major draft capital. If you're trading a second round pick for a wide receiver, he better be a wide receiver 1, not a wide receiver 2. But here's the curveball, right? Let's say the Raiders are down to move Jakobi Meyers. Again, they've been, it doesn't really seem like they're down to trade him, but anything could happen. We just saw Micah freaking Parsons get traded like a week and a half before the start of the season. So I don't want to rule anything out, but we're honestly just a little too close to the start of the season to see a move get made this week. That's just my guess. I think right now, if you were to ask Pete Carroll and you say, hey, is Jakobi Meyers maybe a part of the game plan? Do you see him being an impactful piece this Sunday against the Patriots? Ironically enough, Meyers' old team. The answer is yes. I just feel like they are in full operation, full game plan mode. They definitely should be. I don't see why they wouldn't be with a week before the start of the season here. So to move a guy like that, a big part of the offense, to me just feels a little like a pipe dream unless you're overpaying. And again, I don't want the Jets to overpay. I don't want us to jump the gun here. Now, I do think Meyers does fit the Jets. I think he fits the system really well. I think he would be a great compliment to Garrett Wilson as a wide receiver too. I think he's someone who's shown the ability to consistently get open throughout the years. He plays, he's available, he's durable. I like though. I like those qualities a lot. That is someone who I think ideally not only just makes sense for Justin Fields, right? When you're talking about, okay, are we putting Fields in the best position to, have him succeed as a passer, have him grow as a passer? It's very difficult to say, okay, we expect you to take a leap. We expect you to develop as this passer, as our starting quarterback for this season. And you have Garrett Wilson, you have Mason Taylor, who's a rookie, Arian Smith, who's a rookie, and then a bunch of just one-year contracts all over the place. So you could definitely argue Meyers. You could definitely pound your fist on the table and say, hey, like, what more do you want? A wide receiver 2, again, who is consistent, who is durable, who fits the system, and is a good complement to Garrett Wilson. You have your options staring you right in the face. But I just feel like at this point in time, first of all, and I hate to say this, but there's a team in our division who has a massive need at wide receiver, in my opinion. A team that Meyers has already played for in the New England Patriots, a team that has more cap space. And you do kind of feel like Meyers would make sense for New England as well. Could they potentially swoop in and make the deal? Help out Drake May, right? May's going into year 2, but he's learning the Josh McDaniels offense. What better person/coach to have on the field than someone who's been in the Josh McDaniels offense before and has had success, Jakobi Meyers, right? So you can definitely, unfortunately pose that argument, but I just don't really think the Raiders are going to be trading him this week. Week 3, week 4, week 5, week 8, right? As we're approaching the trade deadline, maybe. But I don't think it sends a good message to the locker room to move off of a contributing piece that isn't really being a distraction. Yeah, you requested a trade, but I haven't heard any reports that Meyers is throwing anybody under the bus or talking crap about the organization or skip it. I don't think he's a holdout or anything. I think he's just simply requested a trade. I want an extension. They couldn't reach one, and that's really it. So maybe something gets done. Maybe a trade happens. I'm going to say no, probably not this week before the season starts, but yeah, the Jets better know what they're doing at wide receiver too. And again, they want to run the football. Garrett's going to do his thing. Great. Mason Taylor, he's probably going to be the second, I would assume, pass catcher in a lot of these different passing concepts or pass catching option. And then Justin Fields on the ground. There's only one football to go around. But still, my fear is that defenses are going to look at the Jets passing attack and say Lazard is not a threat on the outside. Josh Reynolds is not a threat. I'm not saying these guys are, good for one catch. Josh Reynolds is going to have one catch for 11 yards. That's his, contribution as wide receiver too. I think these guys are capable of more. But as far as them getting like 5, 6, 7 catches per game against any defense, I just feel like that's unrealistic to assume. So, yeah, anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. And as always, go Jets.